Welcome to the World History 1 lecture series. At the end of each slide there will be a 10-second delay. Use this time to pause the presentation and complete your notes. When you are done, push play and you will move forward. This lecture will begin in 5 seconds. Welcome to World History 1 Lecture 10.3 on Civilizations of the Americas, and let's answer the greatest mystery of World History 1. Why do we talk about these people, but we never talk about these people? Well, to answer that question, we're going to have to do a little bit of basic math. Once again, on the left we have Central and South American Indians, and they have cultures. Plus, they live in urban environments. Culture plus urban culture is going to equal Mayan, Aztec, and Incan civilization. On the right, we have American Indians, and they have a culture. Plus, unless you are the Mongols. The problem here is that there is no urbanized culture in North America until the arrival of European settlers. So if we're using our traditional definition, Native Americans do not have a civilization because they lack urban culture. But Mayan, Aztec, and Incan civilizations, they are non-traditional civilizations. The question is, where do we find these civilizations? With that said, go to the next slide. So now it's time to look in our own backyard at the Western Hemisphere. And for your reference, here's Virginia in the good old US of A. But you just learned that there's nothing to see here yet in North America. So instead, we're going to look at the geographic features of Central America. The Gulf of Mexico is surrounded by North and Central America. And for your reference, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas all form the north coast of the Gulf of Mexico. The Mexican Plateau is in central Mexico and includes the capital of Mexico, Mexico City. The Yucatan Peninsula includes southeastern Mexico and Belize, and Guatemala is in middle Central America. Central America is that isthmus that connects Mexico to Colombia in South America. So we're also going to look at the geographic features of South America. The Andes Mountains run along the entire west coast of South America, and they are the second tallest mountains in the world. Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, and Chile are countries on the west coast, and we're going to find one of our non-traditional civilization of the Americas in these countries. Everything you see here was all found by the Spanish during the Age of Exploration. Thank you, Charles V of Spain, for pushing us forward into the Western Hemisphere. Go to the next slide. Except for Greece, we learned that civilizations form primarily on the banks of rivers or in river valleys. Civilizations in the Americas are non-traditional because they're going to settle somewhere else. So let's look at classical Mayans. They are a rainforest civilization. Classical Mayan civilization lasted from 250 to 900 CE. And Mayan civilization was located primarily in rainforests on the Yucatan Peninsula and Guatemala, and formed as a group of city-states ruled by a king. This civilization settles in a non-traditional setting. Here's the thing about Mayans. We do not know what happened to this civilization. Instead, there are three hypotheses regarding the end of Mayan civilization. Mayans exhausted the environment around them and could not sustain their civilization. There was constant warfare between city-states that led to a breakdown in order, or there was a catastrophic or extremely destructive environmental change like an extremely long and intense drought. One of these three things may have been the cause of the end of Mayan civilization. Go to the next slide. The Mayans may have settled in a geographically non-traditional setting, but that didn't stop them from becoming an extraordinary civilization. The Mayan social structure included priests, nobles like political officials and military rulers, warriors, peasants like farmers, laborers, and servants, and slaves. This is a complex social system. The Mayan economy was agriculturally based with urban and religious centers. Mayans are bringing their crops to markets in cities and then they are praying there. Mayan civilization included independent city-states ruled by a king that served as religious centers. Chichen Itza in Mexico is an example of one such city. And then there's Mayan religion, which was based on a polytheistic worship of nature gods, astronomy, human sacrifice, and worship in stone temples. Human sacrifice, you say? Yeah, let's talk about the national pastime of the Mayans, hip ball. Hip ball was a great game until you lost and were beheaded. But it was an honor to die because hip ball was a religious ceremony. And then we got to talk about that Mayan calendar. Yes, that calendar. Mayan scientific and technological achievements included a zero numbering system, pictograms, glyphs, which we call Mayan script, wide paved roads, a 365-day calendar, and a long count calendar based on astronomy. The Mayans were a sophisticated civilization. Go to the next slide. The Mayans weren't the only civilization in the Americas who settled in a geographically non-traditional setting. Let's look at the ancient Aztecs. They were a desert and lake civilization. The Aztecs were located on a lake in an arid valley of central Mexico from 1325 to 1521 CE. This civilization literally settled in the middle of a lake. They settle in a non-traditional setting, and they too have a complex social structure. There's a king who's chosen from the noble families. There are nobles, government and military leaders, high priests, and lords. There are commoners, farmers, artisans, merchants, and priests, and there are serfs and slaves. But all of these people are going to be educated because all members of Aztec civilization received a compulsory education. You had to go to school if you were an Aztec. The Aztecs were an agricultural-based economy, and they were also one of the first civilizations to run into the Europeans. The Aztecs are conquered by the Spanish conquistador Hernando Cortez during the Age of Discovery. Look out! See World History 2 or AP European History for more on this guy. Go to the next slide. Like the Mayan, the Aztecs will do incredible things. Aztec government was ruled by Huitlacanes, or great speakers like Montezuma II. They also had city councils that acted like the Roman Senate and noble families. By the way, Montezuma II was the ruler of the Aztecs when they were conquered by Hernando Cortez. So when you go down to Mexico these days and you drink the water and get an upset stomach, it's not called Montezuma's Revenge for nothing. It's impressive that Cortez was able to conquer the Aztecs because the Aztecs were a militaristic society and warfare was considered a religious duty. Speaking of religion, Aztec religion was polytheistic and it focused on sun worship. It was led by the emperor and focused on human sacrifice to appease the gods. The Aztecs were a violent civilization, but they had a lot of contributions as well. Aztec scientific and technological achievements included the capital of Tenochtitlan, which is now modern-day Mexico City, was built on an island in the middle of a lake and held 200,000 citizens. They had causeways, aqueducts, and dams to sustain the city, and other Aztec contributions include a calendar, writing system, pyramids, and mathematics. The Aztecs were a major non-traditional civilization from the Americas. Go to the next slide. Let's move down to South America and look at Inca civilization. They were the mountain civilization. Inca were located in the Andes Mountains of South America between Ecuador and northern Chile from 1438 to 1533 CE, and they were supported by a high-altitude agricultural economy. Can you say non-traditional setting? This civilization literally lived up in the clouds. Incans were ruled by a feudal emperor and nobles in semi-independent provinces with urban centers. Machu Picchu is an example of Incan urban life, but its function is unknown. Machu Picchu is one of the most famous sites of ancient civilization in the Western Hemisphere, and we have no idea why it was built, where it was built, and what it was used for. Incan religion was polytheistic and based primarily on ancestor worship. The center of religion was in the capital. The Incan capital was Cusco. The Incans have scientific and technological achievements as well, including a 12,000-mile transportation system. This includes roads, tunnels, and bridges. They had a calendar, a writing system, and mathematics. These people were sophisticated engineers. They're also going to meet Europeans, and like the Aztec, it's not going to go well. They fell to Spanish conquistador Francisco Pizarro. This guy is downright vicious. World History 2. Here we come. That's it for this lecture, and I look forward to seeing you in class.